How to win friends and influence people. Short notes. Number 1. If you want to gather honey, don't kick over the beehive. Don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Don't complain about the snow on your neighbor's roof when your own doorstep is unclean. Confucius. When dealing with people, let us remember we are not dealing with creatures of logic. We are dealing with creatures of emotion, creatures bristling with prejudices and motivated by pride and vanity. Any fool can criticize, condemn, and complain, and most fools do. But it takes character and self-control to be understanding and forgiving. A great man shows his greatness by the way he treats little men. By Carlyle. God himself, sir, does not propose to judge man until the end of his days. By Dr. Johnson. Why should you and I? Number 2. The big secret of dealing with people. The deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated. By William James. Example, civilization. There is nothing else that so kills the ambitions of a person as criticisms from superiors. The difference between appreciation and flattery. One is sincere and the other insincere. One comes from the heart out, the other from the teeth out. Flattery is telling the other person precisely what he thinks about himself. Number 3. He who can do this has the whole world with him. He who cannot walks a lonely way. The only way on earth to influence other people is to talk about what they want and show them how to get it. First, arouse in the other person an eager want. He who can do this has the whole world with him. He who cannot walks a lonely way. If there is any one secret of success, it lies in the ability to get the other person's point of view and see things from that person's angle as well as from your own. If a salesperson can show us how their services or merchandise will help us solve our problems, they won't need to sell us. We'll buy, and customers like to feel that they are buying, not being sold. The individual who unselfishly tries to serve others has an enormous advantage. He has little competition. Number 4. Do this and you'll be welcome anywhere. We are interested in others when they are interested in us. Become genuinely interested in other people. Number 5. A simple way to make a good first impression. Actions speak louder than words, and a smile says, I like you. You make me happy, and I'm glad to see you. For example, when you see a dog or a baby, they all react the same way. You must have a good time meeting people if you expect them to have a good time meeting you. Everybody in the world is seeking happiness, and there is one sure way to find it. That is by controlling your thoughts. Happiness doesn't depend on outward conditions. It depends on inner conditions. It isn't what you have or who you are or where you are or what you are doing that makes you happy or unhappy. It is what you think about it. A man without a smiling face must not open a shop. Nobody needs a smile so much as those who have none left to give. So smile. Number 6. If you don't do this, you are headed for trouble. Remember that a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. An easy way to become a good conversationalist. To be interesting, be interested. Be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves. Number 8. How to entrust people. Whenever Roosevelt expected a visitor, he sat up late at night before reading up on the subject in which he knew his guest was particularly interested. Talking in terms of the other person's interests pays off for both parties. Number 9. How to make people like you instantly. Always make the other person feel important. The deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Little phrases such as, "I'm sorry to trouble you," "Would you be so kind as to," "Won't you please," "Would you mind," "Thank you," make the other person feel important and do it sincerely. Number 10. You can't win an argument. There is only one way under high heaven to get the best of an argument, and that is to avoid it. Avoid it as you would avoid rattlesnakes and earthquakes. A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. If you argue and rankle and contradict, you may achieve a victory sometimes, but it will be an empty victory because you will never get your opponent's goodwill. What to do? Welcome the disagreement. Distrust your first instinctive impression. Control your temper. Listen first. Look for areas of agreement. Be honest. Promise to think over your opponent's ideas and study them carefully. Thank your opponent sincerely for their interest. Postpone action to give both sides time to think through the problem. When one yells, the other should listen. Because when two people yell, there is no communication, just noise and bad vibrations. Number 11. A sure way of making enemies and how to avoid it. You cannot teach a man anything. You can only help him to find it within himself. Few people are logical. Most of us are prejudiced and biased. Judge people by their own principles, not your own. Don't argue with your customer or your spouse or your adversary. Don't tell them they are wrong. Don't get them stirred up. Use a little diplomacy. Show respect for the other person's opinions. Never say you're wrong. Number 12. If you're wrong, admit it. Any fool can try to defend his or her mistakes, and most fools do. But it raises one above the herd and gives one a feeling of nobility and exultation to admit one's mistakes. By fighting, you never get enough, but by yielding, you get more than you expected. Number 13. A drop of honey. A drop of honey catches more flies than a gallon of gall. If you would win a man to your cause, first convince him that you are his sincere friend. The sun then told the wind that gentleness and friendliness were always stronger than fury and force. Begin in a friendly way. Number 14. The secret of Socrates. In talking with people, don't begin by discussing the things on which you differ. Begin by emphasizing and keep on emphasizing, if possible, that you are both striving for the same end and that your only difference is the one of method and not of purpose. A no response, according to Professor Overstreet, is a most difficult handicap to overcome. The skillful speaker gets at the outset a number of yes responses. This sets the psychological process of the listeners moving in the affirmation direction. When a person says no, the entire organism, glandular, nervous, muscular, gathers itself together into a condition of rejection. When a person says yes, none of the withdrawal activities take place. Socrates' method was based upon getting a yes response. He asked questions with which his opponent would have to agree. He kept on winning one admission after another until he hands on an armful of yeses. He who treads softly goes far. Number 15. The safety valve in handling complaints. Let the other people talk themselves out. La Rochefoucauld, the French philosopher, said, "If you want enemies, excel your friends. But if you want friends, let your friends excel you." Number 16. How to get cooperation. Isn't it wiser to make suggestions and let the other person think out the conclusion? No one likes to feel that he or she is being sold something or told to do a thing. We much prefer to feel that we are buying of our own accord or acting on our own ideas. We like to be consulted about our wishes, our wants, our thoughts. The reason why rivers and seas receive the homage of 100 mountain streams is that they keep below them. Thus they are able to reign over all the mountain streams. So the sage, wishing to be above men, putteth himself below them. Wishing to be before them, he putteth himself behind them. Thus, though his place be above men, they do not feel his weight. Though his place be before them, they do not count it an injury. Number 17. A formula that will work wonders for you. Try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view. Number 18. What everybody wants. I don't blame you one iota for feeling as you do. If I were you, I would undoubtedly feel just as you. 3/4 of the people you will ever meet are hungering and thirsty for sympathy. Give it to them, and they will love you. Number 19. An appeal that everybody likes. A person usually has two reasons for doing a thing. One that sounds good and a real one. The person himself will think of the real reason. But all of us, being idealists at heart, like to think of motives that sound good. So, in order to change people, appeal to the nobler motives. If you're satisfied with the results you are now getting, why change? If you are not satisfied, why not experiment? Number 20. The movies do it. TV does it. Why don't you do it? This is the day of dramatization. Merely stating a truth isn't enough. The truth has to be made vivid, interesting, and dramatic. You have to use showmanship. The movies do it, television does it, and you will have to do it if you want attention. When nothing else works, try this. The way to get things done is to stimulate competition. The desire to excel, the challenge, an infallible way of appealing to the people of spirit. All men have fears, but the brave put down their fears and go forward, sometimes to death, but always to victory. Throw down a challenge. That is what every successful person loves. The game, the chance for self-expression, the chance to prove his or her worth, to excel, to win. That is what makes foot races and hawk calling and pie eating contests. The desire to excel, the desire for a feeling of importance. Part 4. Be a leader. How to change people without giving offense or arousing resentment. Number 1. If you must find fault, this is the way to begin. Beginning with praise is like the dentist who begins his work with Novocaine. The patient still gets a drilling, but the Novocaine is pain-killing. A leader will use begin with praise and honest appreciation. Number 2. How to criticize and not be hated for it. An effective way to correct others' mistakes is call attention to people's mistakes indirectly. Number 3, talk about your own mistakes first. Admitting one's own mistakes, even when one hasn't corrected them, can help convince somebody to change his behavior. Number 4, no one likes to take orders. People are more likely to accept an order if they have had a part in the decision that caused the order to be issued. An effective leader will ask questions instead of giving direct orders. Number 5, let the other person save face. Even if we are right and the other person is definitely wrong, we only destroy ego by causing someone to lose face. I have no right to say or do anything that diminishes a man in his own eyes. What matters is not what I think of him, but what he thinks of himself. Hurting a man in his dignity is a crime. Number 6, how to spur people on to success. Let us praise even the slightest improvement that inspires the other person to keep on improving. I ain't much, baby, but I'm all I got. Praise is like sunlight to the warm human spirit. We cannot flower and grow without it, and yet, while most of us are only too ready to apply to others the cold wind of criticism, we are somehow reluctant to give our fellow the warm sunshine of praise. Let me repeat, the principles taught in this book will work only when they come from the heart. Abilities wither under criticism. They blossom under encouragement. Number 7, give a dog a good name. An average person can be led readily if you have his or her respect, and if you show that you respect that person for some kind of ability. If you want to improve a person in a certain respect, act as though that particular trait were already one of his or her outstanding characteristics. Shakespeare said, assume a virtue if you have it not. It might be well to assume and state openly that other people have the virtue you want them to develop. Give them a fine reputation to live up to, and they will make prodigious efforts rather than see you disillusioned. Number 8, make the fault seem easy to correct. Tell your child, your spouse, or your employee that he or she is stupid or dumb at a certain thing, has no gift for it, and is doing it all wrong, and you have destroyed almost every incentive to try to improve. But use the opposite technique. Be liberal with your encouragement. Make the thing seem easy to do. Let the other person know that you have faith in his ability to do it, that he has an undeveloped flair for it, and he will practice until the dawn comes in the window in order to excel. Use encouragement. Make the fault seem easy to correct. Number 9, making people glad to do what you want. Always make the other person happy about doing the thing you suggest. Qualities of an effective leader. Number 1, be sincere. Do not promise anything that you cannot deliver. Forget about the benefits to yourself and concentrate on the benefits to the other person. Number 2, know exactly what it is you want the other person to do. Number 3, be empathetic. Ask yourself, what is it that the other person really wants? Number 4, consider the benefits that person will receive from doing what you suggest. Number 5, match those benefits to the other person's wants. Number 6, when you make your request, put it in a form that will convey to the other person the idea that he personally will benefit. The ability to speak is a shortcut to distinction. It puts a person in the limelight, raises one head and shoulders above the crowd. The way to develop self-confidence, he said, is to do the thing you fear to do and get a record of successful experiences behind you. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.